It appears that President Trump has chosen where to host the next G7 meeting. Now that is happening in June. And unsurprisingly, it's at one of his resorts. Can we all say corruption? Now, Trump's acting chief of staff, Mick Mulvaney, during a disastrous press conference that has gotten attention for all the wrong reasons, also announced that Trump had chosen his Miami Doral resort for this diplomatic meeting. So now, in saying that, or in choosing it, Mulvaney had said, quote, "It's almost like they built this facility to host this type of event." Of course. How convenient, right? That we just happened to build this, and now Trump is president, and now look, it's the perfect place to host a G7. Now, Mulvaney said, well, wait, in case you're worried about corruption, which we do in spades, don't worry about this one. Donald Trump promises that the hotel will put the summit, quote, at cost. We're not going to make any profit from this. In fact, he said, I think the president has pretty much made it very clear since he got here that he doesn't profit from being here. That's hilarious. Why doesn't he release his taxes? Quote, he has no interest in profit from being here. Are you kidding me? That is the biggest fraudulent statement I have ever seen. Donald Trump, you're trying to tell me that Donald Trump has no interest in profit. Bullcrap. Absolute bullcrap. Of course he has an interest in profit. That's the whole point of him being president. He's taken every opportunity to take money, public money, and put it in his pockets. For example, pressuring, having Mike Pence, or what I like to call him,
Mike Pounds,
go to a specific Trump resort or Trump hotel when he was staying in Ireland. That was a 100-mile trip between his destination and the Trump hotel. Not only that, but you also had the airport deal where Donald Trump made a deal with the airport before he became president, saying that, don't worry, we're going to give you traffic to that airport. And then what we're going to do is, in return for that traffic, I need you to direct your guests to go stay at this hotel. And then we both win. I get money, you get traffic, and you're no longer a struggling airport. And then, by the way, now that he's president, lots of taxpayer money is ending up going both to that hotel as well as airport. Not a coincidence. Absolute corruption. Jesus. All right. So there's more. Now, the whole problem is that we have is that Trump holding the summit there will essentially force government officials to pay the Trump family in order to stay at their own resort. That money ends up going right back into the Trump organization's pockets. And, of course, into Trump's pockets. Now, what's interesting about this as well is that this is the G7. So you're going to have a lot of foreign leaders, not to mention their entourages, coming with them and staying at this hotel. So now, the thing about that that's interesting is this could count against the emoluments clause. This is a foreign emolument. The Constitution is very, very clear. The president is prohibited from accepting a gift or payment from a foreign government source. That's the emoluments clause. It's very, very clear. And second, the president is also prohibited from taking any kind of payment from the federal government that is beyond his salary. Again, government officials will also be staying at the Doral Resort during the G7. And so all that money, again, goes back into Donald Trump's pockets. This is absolute corruption. But what's hilarious is their argument is, but it's the best place for people to stay. Is it? Is it? I mean, there seems to be a lot of other hotels around the area that people could stay at that are not affiliated with the Trump organization. But there is a reason, and I will spell that out for you guys. But first of all, let's look at whether or not this is the best place for people to stay. Now, this will be held in Miami, right? In the middle of June. So not only is it going to be super hot, it's also going to be super humid and very, very uncomfortable. That is why during that month, during those summer months, the Doral has very, very high vacancy rates. Several event planners, by the way, reached on Thursday noted that the Trump Doral was certainly not the only resort in the United States that could handle an event like the G7. So that's another thing, right? So it's not that there's not places around that are better suited and that this is the only choice, right? No, there are other places that are suited and also better places overall, even if you're only counting the weather. So people are going to sweat their asses off. It's going to be hot. It's going to be sticky. It's going to be very uncomfortable. And there are other concerns as well. But here's why Donald Trump picked Doral. And this is according to financial findings obtained by the New York Times. Doral had struggled financially since the Trump family had bought at the resort in bankruptcy in 2012, reportedly paying about $150 million to that property. And, by the way, in order to finance that, this supposed billionaire ended up taking about $100 million in loans to help finance the project. And, of course, the only people that will lend him that money is Deutsche Bank. No one else would touch him. He's an absolute credit risk. And so what does Deutsche Bank do? Well, Deutsche Bank, of course, loans him the money in order to buy this resort. Now, this resort actually is Donald Trump's, I think, main source of income. And yet, at the same time, the document showed that the property had lost $2.4 million in 2014. And since then, the Trump organization has not disclosed their profit margin. So at this time, here you have the administration who has a known failing property that at a time where vacancy rates are very, very high, saying, oh, here's an idea. Let's get everyone to stay at the G7, or let's get the whole G7 delegation to stay at this particular hotel, even though it's an off season. Wonderful. Not only that, but also local officials said that holding a summit at the resort would be very complicated, given the resort, the proximity of the resort to major area roads, including two that are immediately adjacent to the resort and might need to be closed to ensure security. Ray Valdez, spokesman for the Doral Police Department, said this, quote, "It's in the middle of the metro area of Dade County. This will require a logistical feat." So, not only do they have all those other factors that I pointed out, but you also have, it's going to require a logistical feat to even make this possible, which is going to cost the city, of course, money. And it's also going to disrupt a commute in the middle of Dade County. It's an absolute disaster. And beyond those challenges, by the way, G7 guests might have another thing to contend with. Bedbugs. So now we get to the last hilarious part of this. It turns out the Doral Resort used to have a little bit of a bedbug problem. The Trump organization was sued back in 2016 by insurance executive Eric Linder after his back, face, and arms were, according to the lawsuit, devoured by voracious bedbugs during a stay in March of that same year. So, awesome. Humid temperatures, massive logistical feats, as well as traffic concerns and safety concerns, and now also bedbugs. Also that Donald Trump can put a few extra bucks into his pocket. Let me ask you guys, with all this corruption going on, are you winning yet? Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent progressive media.